Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders shipping real AI products into the world. Today, I'm joined by Eli, co-founder and CTO of Searchless, a human-centered AI-powered interview platform that dynamically converses with candidates like a subject matter expert, auto screens candidates, produces transcripts, and employers say that it speeds up screening by 10x. Eli, it's great to have you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Of course. Well, yeah, I wanted to start with kind of your founding story, a bit of your background. So, what were you doing before Searchless, and what got you the idea to co-found Searchless?
So before I was working on Dropbox as well as Amazon Alexa. I really liked in history the pivotal technology moments. Like when the microcomputer came out, or like mobile phones, or like steam power. Like they're all times in history where just everything changes and nobody has any idea what the hell is going on. And when I was at Dropbox, I saw the how powerful LLMs could be. And I realized okay, this is everything's going to change right now. And I could just stay at my job and do things that aren't related to this at all, or um, go off and do something with it. So I actually tried to find something um, where I could use LLMs at the bleeding edge, but I couldn't really find anything that vibed with me, I guess. So then my co-founder contacted me, and he was like, "Hey, Eli, um, what do you think of this idea?" And then he pitched Searchless, and then he asked me to help him find a CTO. So I said yeah, I could help you interview people if you want. I ended up making a prototype for him, and then I was off to a conference, and he called me on the plane, and he's like, "Do you want to be my CTO?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it."
I love that.
Yeah.
How did you two meet?
We're
Have you worked
brothers.
together
So
before? Oh,
siblings.
amazing!
Yeah.
Love that. That's even
Yeah.
better. How
Yeah.
is that? Well, I've got to ask, obviously. How is that go being a co-founder with a sibling? Any pros or cons?
Um, I mean, pros are we already know each other super well. Um, we can be very honest and blunt with each other, and um, it's good to have a co-founder who really wants to get going somewhere with you, rather than it being strictly business. The cons obviously are um, if something were to go wrong, then that would be very bad for for my family relationships. But
Totally.
yeah.
Very interesting. Well, I wanted to ask just a little bit more before we jump into Searchless, like about what you saw, let's say at Dropbox. You don't have to share any specific details, but how do you feel like companies like Dropbox are really understanding the transformation that's going on and taking it seriously? Or is part of why you left because you're like, man, why aren't we shifting everything to focus on, AI use cases? Or what's your opinion on what you've seen and what you've heard from other engineers, especially in these kind of bigger established companies?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's not just a new way of doing things. It's things that were not possible at all before are possible now. So Dropbox did have some initiatives going on for trying to leverage LLMs to search through your data, or stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it didn't really work out for me. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I'd
I
love
think
to.
like
Oh, yeah,
going off on my own was something I've wanted to do for a while as well, and it might have been LLMs might have been a good excuse to just go off.
totally. Yeah, I'm a similar way. Been kind of wanting to start a company for a long time, and been thinking about ideas since college, probably. But this was just the best opportunity to found Voker. Everything seemed to align. But yeah, I want to learn a bit more about Searchless. So, I gave a brief intro at the beginning, but I want to hear, how good of a job I did. What would you highlight as like the real value for your customers that are using Searchless, and what does that customer look like?
Yeah, so right now we're targeting enterprises or other large companies, um, mostly because you don't get much benefit unless you have incredibly high volume of applicants, right? So, like for me, when I hire people, it's like I look through my LinkedIn messages and be like, okay, who's looking for a job, and pick somebody, right? Like there's not that many of them. Um, but if I had like thousands of people applying to a job every day, like there's no way I can like interview all those people, let alone look at the resumes. So like I guess the big sell is you can do a much better job screening and interviewing people than you would be able to do with humans. Like the way I like to think about it is if you were to hire a hundred recruiters, technical recruiters, and actually go through all of these people, maybe you could get a similar result. Um, but how much is that going to cost, right? So we could do it for a small fraction, like any number of candidates simultaneously at any hour of the day, no scheduling, um, and yeah, I think I want to stop with a little story. So there's something that happened, and I didn't expect it to, where one of our clients um, ended up hiring somebody without anybody at that company talking to them.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
it was pretty surreal. Like so like it was one of our pilot clients, and they only hired a few people through us. But the first time they hired somebody, they like looked through all the transcripts and the videos and everything. Second time, oh, and then they did a follow-up interview, and then they hired the person. The second time, they just looked at the analysis and like the video recording of the interview and everything, um, and then said we're going to hire this person. Um, they ended up meeting with them again for like some formalities, like asking them to send in their paperwork and whatever. Like that was all of their interview. Like their entire interview pipeline was automated, which was pretty insane. And like that's something that's only been possible in the past couple of years, really. You know.
Very cool. Yeah, that's definitely a surprise. I would have thought maybe companies would need more time to ease in, but it really just goes to show like there's that whole adoption curve, right? Of like, if that company that's a customer is, an early adopter, maybe they just need, one proof point and then they're like, let's do it. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned this wasn't possible 2 years ago. How much of the product today um, would you say is like where you want it to be? Obviously, there's like a million things to add always in a new startup, but like, has AI already made it possible to do everything you plan to do in the product? Or do you still think like, hey, we're going to be able to automate this or improve this in like a year when models change? And what is that thing you're kind of like waiting for or looking for?
Yeah, like right now, we're not stunted by the models. It's more a matter of like data flow problems, because we're like the way I like to think about Searchless is it's three different domains of technical knowledge or technical code, I guess. The first is um, obviously the LLM integration where it generates a conversation with people and does the analysis and all that. The second is video streaming. So we have quite a bit of like they're full video interviews. So there's a lot of video processing code in there. Um, that's one of the things I've been procrastinating working on recently. Like I did a bunch of stuff with it, and then other priorities came up. And then the third would be all the extraneous stuff like managing, like inviting candidates and random stuff like that. That's not AI involved at all.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think people hear AI and they just they sometimes forget all the infrastructure that goes into not just running the AI system, but then everything else that goes on around it,
Yeah.
which is definitely probably also a competitive advantage for you guys is how do you actually process all that streaming video, etc. So very interesting technical challenge. Well, when it comes to like the AI systems, tell us about like a couple of the features. Is there like a core feature that is like the most important to customers? Do you have like a list of different things like summarization and transcription, etc.? Like maybe what are the most exciting features or the most important to your customers that Searchless has that are powered by an LLM?
Yeah. Yeah. The most I mean, like the big feature obviously is the actual interview part, but how we do that interview is um, is the interesting part because it's not like asking simple questions like have you used this programming language before or like looking for keywords or superficial stuff like that. It will actually drill down into some past experience you have. So it will say, like, tell me about a time you used Python to solve some challenging problem. And then it will drill down into that question until it has like a full like star answer. So it kind of drags like a story out of the person, whether they like it or not. So the one really nice thing is like unless candidates are not taking it seriously, everybody will give like a good story about like each a time they used each of these skills, right? And that's something that a recruiter normally wouldn't do. Like a recruiter is not going to ask you like how did you like demux the video stream in real time and blah 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 whatever. But the AI system will, right? So we can really drill down into whatever your experience it is, and automatically flag things if there's any concerns. Like if you start spouting out nonsense, it will flag that. But a recruiter, I'm gonna go ahead and roast recruiters. They probably wouldn't bat an eye if I said something like, "I demuxed the video live stream using a transmogrification magnification, uh, whatever, blah blah blah," and just like start spouting off all these random things. They probably have no idea what I'm talking about, so they just be like, "Okay, well, they mentioned this this keyword, or they didn't mention that keyword," and that's the main thing they look for. Sadly,
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's true. Like it sounds like not only are you automating, a process at scale by being able to parallelize and not have to schedule, but also bringing that intelligence that like you can't expect a recruiter to know. Maybe they're trained in like they've done a lot of front end developer recruiting in a certain stack, but like, and even then they're asking questions that they remember from previous calls. But like, if you now need to hire a backend dev for something else that's more specific, they might have not have experience there, whereas the AI can. So love that. Definitely sounds valuable and impactful. When it comes to actually building that complex interviewing process, like tell me a bit more about the stack. Like, are you doing direct integrations with LLMs? Do you use a framework, like LangChain or something? Is most of that just prompt engineering, or is there a lot of like traditional quote unquote code in there to like kind of dig down, and go beyond just like one question?
Yeah. It's both. So during an interview, there might be like 10 plus, like 10 to 20 different prompts that are used, and they're all dynamic. So, like, based on what the interview is asking the person about and previous things they've said, yada, 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 it will change the prompts accordingly. Um, so that's that. Like, it's definitely not just like a single prompt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you
How do
try
you
to use a
actually,
single prompt,
yeah,
you're not going to get very far.
how do you actually facilitate that handoff between the prompts then? Is there like a tool call from the first prompt that's like, if they start saying this, decide which of the next prompts to use, or how does that work?
Yeah, kind of, kind of is the answer. So the LLMs generally don't make a lot of decisions. Um, like, I guess they're kind of our tool calls, but I'm not using a framework, and I started working on this 2 years ago. So that was around the time when LangChain was the only kid in the block. Um, and I didn't find that LangChain would really help me a lot. Like, I found it's mostly a collection of libraries that you can use to like hook into this database and that database, and you know create vector embeddings for these words or whatever. And like it sounds nice, but at the end of the day, the actual code for dealing with the prompts is is not that much. You know, like there's a lot more code dealing with non-prompt stuff than there is dealing with prompt stuff. You know. So yeah, to answer your question, no framework other than like an HTTP server framework. Yeah.
Awesome. Love that you've been building this like before some of these tools existed or frameworks existed. So it sounds like you've had to kind of like set it up yourself. Are you happy with that choice, or is there like, do you see any tools now or libraries, frameworks have come out that you're like, oh, if I'd started today, I would use that? Do you kind of keep up with those, frameworks and libraries, or do you kind of just stay focused on like building your way?
Um, I think I more so take inspiration from them. Um, like if a framework or library comes out that has like some really cool feature, I might just build it myself, or like if it's open source, plagiarize it, I guess, as long as the license is correct.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, for the most part, I don't really follow the latest and greatest LLM things because like
Hmm.
really we're at a point where the actual interview is pretty good. Like we have a lot of tools that we built ourselves for prompt engineering and dynamically generating prompts and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I haven't really been following them.
That's awesome. Yeah. Um, and then something you just, or that came to mind, as you're mentioning these interviews, is like evals. How have you handled like as you're trying these prompts, there's so many different ways someone could respond. What was your approach to evals? Did you use a framework for that? Do you have something in house? Do you just like watch the interviews and judge it yourself? Like, how did you handle that?
Mostly watch and judge. So like we have some tools for like we have a tool where you could give it a conversation, like a transcript, and then it will run it through our system at every step of the interview. So you could analyze how the system would change the interview after you make a tweak. So we do have that, but largely it's been the eyeball method recently.
Makes sense. It's a surprising amount of people, use that method and it works. Because a lot of times the thing you're judging is so subjective that you kind of need a
Yeah.
human eye. Like, how do you build an eval set over time? Are you thinking, like, are you collecting any data on, the current interviews and going to use that for an automated system? Or do you think like over time, no, we'll just keep doing as we improve the platform? It's just going to continue to be like human labeled evals.
Yeah, it's I would like to do it eventually. But I think it's a matter of like manpower. We
Mhm.
have a team of 5, so it's not very easy to do everything the right way. But yeah, I like these days a lot of the work that's going on isn't actually improving the interviews. Like the interviews basically haven't changed in
Mhm.
a year.
Mhm.
Funny enough, like for the past year, it's mostly been stuff like getting video support working and like doing some integrations and
Mhm.
like all this other stuff, like supporting multiple languages. Um, yeah, like we have some pilots in Thailand, so we had to support Thai. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, that was interesting. But that is interesting, I should say.
One more question, selfishly, when you mentioned integrations, how do you decide, like, we've had this struggle where there's all sorts of things that you'd love to plug an AI agent into or get data out of to feed that AI agent. The list is so long. I mean, at least for you guys, you have a focused vertical probably, or a focused use case. We're kind of a more horizontal dev tool, but still, like, there's probably a lot of different ATSs you could integrate with, etc. How do you make that decision of like, when do we build those integrations? And do you ever look into like aggregators, like, middlemen integrators where you can like integrate with this one thing and then kind of get connected to a lot of tools?
Yeah, it's always at a like if the client needs it, we build it type situation. For ATSs in particular, I I think the next time we have to do one, I'd I'd want to look at something like I think it's called merge.dev or something like that. And like I haven't looked into it too much, but apparently it uses a very similar schema for like all all things in the same class of service. So like all ATSs will have more or less the same API as far as I understand. And like it deals with authentication and all that stuff for you. So if we had, or I guess when we have to build another integration, might be worth checking that out.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of the
Awesome. Well,
time,
oh yeah, go for it.
yeah, I was going to say a lot of the time, I prefer not relying on like middlemen integration type things. Um, I find a lot of the time it adds a lot of difficulty in debugging. Um, but yeah, for ATSs might be fine.
Makes sense. Well, on the note of like eventually when we have to add integrations, just thinking of the future, what is the next big milestone for Searchless? Is it something on the product side? Is it fundraise? Is it customers? Like, what's the biggest focus for you guys right now?
Yeah, I'd say like personally, I'm just gonna keep building. Um, like I guess like clients are the number one thing. Like growing as much as we can without any funding would be ideal. And then once we want to really take off, then getting some funding. Yeah, yeah, that is
Makes
like
sense.
as well as like technical things. Um, like one thing that I've been working on recently is continuous video interviews. So right now it's like a push to talk system, right? So
Hmm.
the AI will speak, and then when you're ready to respond, you click the button, record your response, press to stop recording. Um, but one of our clients asked if they could have a continuous video of the entire interview. Um, it sounds like such a simple thing to do, right? So that's going to be well, that is a big task to figure out, but that's like the main thing that I'm personally worried about right now. Not really worried, but focused on.
Focused on, yeah. No, it sounds like like you said, someone might say it sounds simple, but it's actually pretty complicated to do. So
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
Well, I, yeah, really appreciate the conversation. I want to put your website up on the screen for a second, um, and just let me know. This is Searchless. Let me know where people can follow you. Do you have any? Do you post on Reddit or Twitter or LinkedIn, or where's the best place to follow along with what Searchless is doing?
yeah. Mostly LinkedIn. So it's Elijah Mirecki. Um, I think you can post the link on LinkedIn. But yeah,
Awesome, great. Well, yeah, really impressed with what you all have been building, not just on the AI side, but all the infrastructure to support um, actually running these calls. Like you mentioned, it's not that simple, and yeah, to make a working AI system, you need all the components. So, really
yeah.
appreciate the chat, Eli. It was great, great talking.
Great talking, Tyler. Ciao.
Bye now.